My name is Phyllis P. Toth, and I am 27 years old. My sister Valerie looked me straight in the face and said, "You have no place in our family," and my parents agreed like she had just announced the weather. I did not scream. I did not beg. I just grabbed my jacket, walked out, and let them believe they had won. Valerie sat it in the kitchen, arms crossed, chin lifted, wearing that smug little smile I had hated since childhood. She always looked most satisfied when she had an audience. My mother, Irene, sat at the table sipping tea like we were discussing curtains instead of my place in the family. My father, Richard, did not even look up from his phone when he muttered, "Yeah, maybe it's better this way." For a second, I stood there trying to decide if they had rehearsed it. I could picture Valerie in her room, pacing dramatically, telling them how I was negative energy, how I never fit in, how the family would be more peaceful without me. She had always been good at that. Charming when she needed to be, helpless when it helped her, cruel when she knew there would be no consequences. I was the only person who never bought her act, and I think that was why she hated me most. "Wow," I said, taking my jacket from the back of the chair. "Guess I'll save you the trouble." No one stopped me. Valerie's smile widened. Mom looked back into her tea. Dad kept scrolling. I shut the door behind me and stood on the porch, breathing cold air into my lungs. It did not hurt the way it should have. Maybe because a part of me had heard that sentence my whole life, just in quieter forms. Valerie was the golden child. I was the extra person in the room, the useful one when bills were tight, the difficult one when I spoke honestly. I stayed with my best friend Marla that night. When I told her what happened, she poured cheap wine into mismatched glasses and said, "Honestly, Phyllis, it sounds like they finally gave you permission to be free." We laughed because the alternative was crying, and I was tired of crying over people who treated my sadness like proof I was dramatic. 2 days later, I stopped by the house to pick up a few things and found suitcases lined near the front door. Apparently, they were going on a family vacation. No one had mentioned it to me. Valerie stood in the hallway, supervising our parents like some self-appointed queen of luggage, telling Dad which bag went in the trunk and reminding Mom not to forget the travel documents. She kept looking at me, waiting for the reaction she wanted: hurt, jealousy. Maybe a dramatic little outburst she could use later as evidence. When I said nothing, she finally snapped. "So, are you just going to sit here alone while we're gone? What are you going to do without us?" I smiled because calm always annoyed her more than anger. "I hope they take you somewhere with psychiatric services. Maybe they'll have room for Mom and Dad too." Her face went red instantly. Then came the tears. Loud, wounded, theatrical. My mother rushed to her side, glaring at me like I had kicked a puppy. "You're so cruel," Mom said. "Why can't you be more like your sister?" I shrugged. "Because I'd rather be sane." When they left, I felt relief so complete, it almost scared me. The house went quiet for the first time in years. No Valerie making little comments from the doorway. No Mom sighing because I existed incorrectly. No Dad pretending silence made him neutral. I made popcorn, played music in the kitchen, watched old shows on the couch, and slept better than I had in months. For 2 days, it was bliss. Then my phone rang. Valerie. I ignored it. 5 minutes later, she called again, then again. By the time I finished breakfast, I had 7 missed calls. On the 8th, curiosity won. "What?" I answered. "Finally," Valerie shrieked. "I've been calling you for hours." "Because I don't care," I said. "What do you want?" "We're in trouble," she said, voice shaking now. "We got robbed." I leaned against the counter. "Define robbed." "Some guy stole our money. Mom and Dad are freaking out. We're stuck here with nothing. I didn't know who else to call." I almost laughed. "Why not call Mike?" The silence that followed was delicious. "Oh," I said softly. "You didn't tell your husband, did you?" "Shut up, Phyllis. Are you going to help us or not?" I looked around the quiet kitchen, the peaceful house, the life they had said I did not belong in. "Let me think about it," I said. "Maybe ask one of the locals you trusted so much." She started screaming. I hung up. For the next few hours, my phone kept lighting up like a warning signal. Valerie called again, then Mom, then Dad, then Valerie from what looked like some hotel number. I let every call ring out. The peaceful house around me felt almost unreal, like I was sitting inside a bubble they were trying to pop from another country. The messages came in waves. Answer me. This is serious. Mom is crying. We need money. Stop being petty. By the end of the afternoon, there were 15 missed calls and a voicemail from my mother that began with a sigh so dramatic. I could hear the guilt being loaded before she even spoke. Phyllis, I thought you were better than this, Mom said. We are your family. I know things were said, but this is not the time to punish people. I listened to it twice, not because it moved me, but because I wanted to remember the exact sound of her pretending I had caused the problem. Not once did she say they were sorry. Not once did she mention Valerie telling me I had no place in the family. They did not want reconciliation. They wanted a wire transfer. I texted Valerie one sentence. Sorry, but I'm just a roommate, remember? Then I turned my phone off. 2 days later, I woke up to one text after turning it back on. It was from Valerie, short and sharp. We're coming home, thanks for nothing. I stared at it while drinking coffee, then set the phone down and went about my day. Whatever had happened on that vacation, they had survived it without me. Imagine that. The family that said I did not belong had somehow managed to find their way back without the person they had erased. When they finally returned, I heard them before I saw them. Car doors slamming. My mother complaining about luggage. My father muttering under his breath. Then Valerie stormed into the house like she was entering a courtroom where she expected to win. Her face was flushed, eyes bright with anger, hair pulled back too tightly. Mike followed behind her carrying 2 suitcases, looking exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with travel. He gave me a small nod as he passed, the kind of tired acknowledgement people give when they know the room is about to explode. Valerie pointed at me. You are unbelievable. I leaned against the hallway wall and crossed my arms. Welcome home. We needed you, she snapped. We were stranded. Mom was terrified. Dad had to borrow money from some stranger at the hotel. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was? Humiliating, I repeated. You mean like being told I have no place in my own family while everyone sits there agreeing? Dad finally looked at me then, his face tight. This isn't a joke, Phyllis. No, I said. It wasn't a joke when you said maybe it was better if I left either. Mom pressed a hand to her forehead. Why do you always have to be so difficult? Families help each other. Oh, now we're family, I laughed once. Funny. Last week I was a burden. Or did the vacation robbery restore my membership? Valerie's mouth twisted. You're such a child. Do you even care what you put us through? No, I said. And the word landed harder than I expected. I don't. Because you don't care about me. You never have. You wanted me gone until you needed my money. That is not family. That is convenience. For once, Valerie did not have an immediate comeback. Mom looked wounded, but not enough to apologize. Dad just stared at the floor like the pattern in the rug had become deeply important. Then Mike spoke from near the doorway. She's right. Everyone turned. Valerie's face went white, then red. Excuse me? Mike set the suitcase down slowly. She's right. You treat her like garbage, then act shocked when she doesn't come running to fix your mess. That's not how people work, Valerie. I can't believe you're taking her side. I'm not taking sides, Mike said, voice calm but firm. I'm saying you can't treat someone like they're nothing and expect them to behave like they owe you everything. The silence that followed felt almost holy. For the first time in years, someone had said it out loud. Dad cleared his throat, trying to reclaim control. Look, we've all been through a lot. Let's just move on and put this behind us. Great idea, I said, picking up my bag from the couch. Let's put all of it behind us. I'm moving out. Mom blinked. Moving out? Tonight. Valerie rolled her eyes, but I saw fear flicker underneath. Please, you've said that before. This time, I mean it. I went upstairs before they could stop me. That night, I packed everything that mattered and called my grandmother Ruth. She answered on the first ring. When I told her what happened, she did not sound surprised. Come stay with me, she said. You never needed their permission to be free. The next morning, I left without saying goodbye. Grandma Ruth's house was an hour away, tucked near the edge of a small town where the streets were narrow. The trees leaned over the sidewalks, and everyone seemed to know which neighbor made the best pie. When I pulled into her driveway, she was already standing on the porch in a cardigan, holding a plate of cookies like she had been expecting me for years instead of 20 minutes. She hugged me so tightly I almost cried into her shoulder. Not because I was sad exactly, but because being welcomed without conditions felt unfamiliar. You're better off without that circus, she said, patting my hand after she sat me at the kitchen table. Stay as long as you need. For the first time in days, I believed I might actually be free. I unpacked slowly into the little guest room with the blue curtains. I slept with the window cracked open and woke up to birds instead of Valerie's voice slicing through the hallway. Grandma Ruth did not ask me to explain every feeling. She simply made tea, left clean towels by the door, and let silence be kind instead of cruel. 2 days later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I ignored it at first. Probably spam. Then it rang again. Something in my stomach tightened, so I answered. Is this Phyllis P. Toth? A man asked. Yes. Who's calling? This is Detective Ramirez with the county police. I'm investigating a report involving your family. Your sister Valerie filed a complaint claiming you made threats against her safety before she left on vacation. For a second, I thought I had misheard. Threats? Yes, ma'am. I understand this may be surprising, but we need to follow up. I laughed once, sharp and unbelieving. She told me I had no place in the family, then called me for money after getting robbed. Now she says I threatened her? Detective Ramirez stayed professional. Can you come to the station tomorrow morning? When I told Grandma Ruth, she did not look shocked. She looked tired. That girl has no shame, she said. But don't worry. Lies get messy when people have to repeat them under fluorescent lights. The next morning, Grandma went with me. Detective Ramirez was younger than I expected, sharp-eyed but not unkind. He asked me what had happened before the trip. I told him everything. The kitchen confrontation, Valerie's vacation taunts, the phone calls, the robbery story, the texts. I showed him my messages. He read them carefully, then leaned back. Your sister's statement changed 3 times. She claimed you threatened her physically, but she could not describe where, when, or what exactly you said. Because it didn't happen. That appears to be the case, he said. We're dropping it, but I'm going to give you advice off the record. Keep your distance. People who file reports like this usually aren't finished. I thanked him, but my hands shook all the way back to Grandma's car. Valerie had always lied. She had always twisted stories. But involving police was different. That was not sibling drama. That was dangerous. When we got home, Grandma handed me an envelope. This came while we were out. No return address. Just my name and handwriting I recognized immediately. Mike. Inside was 1 page. I need to talk to you. It's important. Call me. Against my better judgment, I did. He answered like he had been holding the phone. Thank God, he said. I wasn't sure you'd read it. What's going on, Mike? It's Valerie, he said, voice low. She's hiding something. Something big. The next day, we met at a diner outside town. Mike was already there, both hands wrapped around a coffee mug, looking like he had not slept since the vacation. Your sister lied to everyone, he said as soon as I sat down. Tell me something I don't know. No, Phyllis, I mean everything. The robbery wasn't random. The air changed. What are you talking about? She knew the guy. She gave him the money. She told me it was an investment, but then she panicked when he disappeared. I checked the accounts after we got back. She's been draining mine too. Credit cards, savings, everything. I think she's in serious debt. I stared at him. And the police report against me? Distraction, he said. If everyone was focused on you being unstable or dangerous, no one would look too closely at what she did. For a moment, I felt something almost like pity for Valerie. Then I remembered her smile in the kitchen. Why tell me? I asked. Mike looked exhausted. Because your parents will take her side until the proof is sitting in their laps. And you're the only one who has never believed her act. I leaned back. If you want my help, you expose her. No more covering, no more protecting her, because it's easier. He swallowed, then nodded. I'm ready. I wanted to believe him. But with Valerie, ready was never the same as safe. The confrontation came sooner than I expected. The next morning, Mike showed up at Grandma Ruth's house without calling first. He stood on the porch looking pale, wrinkled, and hollowed out, like he had aged 5 years overnight. Grandma opened the door behind me, took one look at him and said, "Whatever it is, say it before it eats you alive." Mike swallowed. I told Valerie I knew. I closed my eyes. And she lost it. Screamed, denied everything, then admitted enough to make it worse. Now she's threatening to leave and take whatever money is left. She called your parents and told them I'm abusing her, controlling her, trying to turn the family against her. Of course she did, I said. They're coming to my house, he continued. I need someone there who knows the truth, someone she can't steamroll. I almost said no. Every instinct I had built over the last few days told me to stay away, to let Valerie's mess burn without me standing close enough to catch sparks. I had spent my whole life being dragged into her chaos, expected to clean up after it, blamed for smelling like smoke afterward. But Mike looked genuinely terrified, and he had been the only person in that house who had said, out loud, that I was right. Fine, I said, but this is the last time I step into Valerie's fire. When we got to Mike's house, my parents were already there. Mom sat stiffly on the couch, hands folded in her lap like she was attending a funeral for someone else's reputation. Dad stood by the window with his arms crossed. Valerie paced the living room, talking fast, wiping tears that appeared and disappeared, depending on who was looking. She stopped when she saw me. What is she doing here? I invited her, Mike said. She has nothing to do with this. She has everything to do with it, I said, stepping inside. Let's skip the performance. Mike knows about the fake robbery. He knows about the money you took. And I know about the police report you filed because you wanted everyone looking at me instead of your accounts. Mom gasped. Phyllis, what are you talking about? Valerie spun toward her. She's lying. She's always hated me. This is exactly what I told you. No, Mike said sharply. Enough. He pulled a folder from his bag and laid everything on the coffee table. Bank statements, screenshots of messages, transfers to a man Valerie had claimed was an investment contact, credit card charges she had hidden, and a copy of the police complaint she filed against me. The room went painfully quiet as Dad picked up the papers and started reading. This can't be true, he said, but his voice had already lost the fight. Valerie, tell me this isn't true. Valerie burst into tears. Loud, messy, dramatic tears. I was desperate, she wailed. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. You didn't mean to fake a robbery? I asked. Or steal from your husband? Or lie to police? She turned on me so fast her face twisted. This is your fault. If you had just left like I told you, none of this would have happened. I laughed. I could not help it. You are blaming me for your crimes. That is actually impressive. Dad stood up slowly, pale and shaken. For the first time in my life, he looked at Valerie without worship in his eyes. We have to go, he said to Mom. What about her? Mom whispered, looking at Valerie. Dad's face hardened. She did this to herself. Valerie froze. You're just going to leave me? You lied to us, Dad said. You used us. I can't help you anymore. Then they walked out. Valerie stared after them like gravity had failed. When she turned back to me, all the tears were gone. Are you happy now? Ecstatic, I said. And if you ever file another false report or drag me into your mess again, I won't just walk away. I'll make sure you pay for it. She stormed out, slamming the door so hard the picture frames rattled. Mike exhaled like he had been holding his breath for years. Thank you. You would have figured it out, I said. You're stronger than you think. Over the next few weeks, Valerie moved out and Mike filed for divorce. My parents tried to pretend none of it had happened, but I stopped answering them. I stayed with Grandma Ruth until I saved enough for my own place. Valerie, last I heard, was couch surfing and still telling people she was the victim. A year later, I was sitting in my apartment, drinking coffee, while sunlight crawled across the floor, when Mike texted me. Just wanted to say thanks again. Hope you're doing well. I smiled and replied, doing great. Hope you are too. For the first time in my life, I was not waiting for Valerie's next disaster or my parents' next excuse. I was not looking over my shoulder. I was finally living on my own terms,